نحمد ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So in the last session we went over the beginning of Salah, the Niyyah, reading Subhanakallahumma, and then followed that with reading Fatiha. Depending on what Salah you're reading, we were going over, doing Fard, like doing Fard of Isha, for example. So generally speaking, if you're praying on your own, this is how we'll go over it. You would read Fatiha, and then after Fatiha, you'll read a surah. If you're reading the Fard, the obligatory prayer, in the first 2 rak'ah, you'll read Fatiha and it'll be followed by a surah. And then in the 3rd and the 4th rak'ah, or the 3rd or the 4th unit of prayer, you will just recite the Fatiha. And we're going to go over each rak'ah, so somebody knows how to read it, and then we'll go over like Fajr and Maghrib and stuff like that as well. So you would read in the first rak'ah, you would read a longer surah, or a longer group of ayat, and then in the second one you would read maybe like, for example, one less. The first one is a little bit longer, the second one is slightly shorter or equal. For example, in the first rak'ah, like we read, so tonight we read Surah Naba. So let's say we read the first 4 ayat. عَمَّا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ الَّذِي هُمْ فِيهِ مُخْتَلِفُونَ كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. Right? So we read 4 ayat. This would be the first rak'ah. Right? After we recite Fatiha, we recite these 4 ayat, we would go into ruku', the bowing, right? We would say Allahu Akbar, and we would go into ruku'. And in ruku', you try to put your hands on your knees, and then you keep your feet straight, and you keep your back as straight as you can keep it. Some people obviously have back problems, that's different, but you go into ruku'. And when you go into ruku', you will recite Subhana Rabbiyal Azim 3 times at least, right? How glorious is my Lord the Great. 3 times is minimum. You recite more, you try to have more khushu and khudu, more sincerity and devotion. That's wonderful. And you should try to keep your eye, throughout the course of the salah, you should try to keep your eyes focused. They're not wandering around, so you don't get distracted, right? So you'll say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim 3 times, 5 times, 7 times, whatever amount you want, and how much tranquility you feel. And then you will say Sami'a Allahu liman hamida. Allah has listened to him who has praised him. You get up, Sami'a Allahu liman hamida. You can recite, like for example, if the Imam says Sami'a Allahu liman hamida, you will just recite Rabbana lakal hamd, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. But even if you're praying alone, you should still recite this. Do as much of the salah as you can, as much of the words which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us. Rabbana lakal hamd means, Oh our Lord, praise be to you. And this is, we stand up, Sami'a Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana lakal hamd, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. And then we will go into sujood, into prostration. When we go into prostration, we place both hands on the ground beside our head. We place, our knees, our feet, everything should be on the ground, and our forehead, our nose should be touching the ground, right? Nothing should be, we shouldn't put a cloth on, if you have a sajada, that's different, but we shouldn't put like an extra cloth or something like that. All of these parts, they should be touching the ground, right? And the face should rest between the 2 hands with fingers pointing towards the Qibla. When in sajda, the feet should be upright with the toes pointing towards the Qibla. The arms should not touch the sides of the body nor the ground. For men, this is for men, salah for men, that our arms should not touch the ground. And the stomach should be away from the thighs. In sajda, we should recite, in prostration, we should recite Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. At least 3 times. You can read more if you want. And some people, they spend a long time in sujood, right? People who really have that connection or want to build that connection. So Subhana Rabbiyal A'la means, all glory be to my Lord the Most High. And we're doing these azkar, we should learn what they mean so we can feel closeness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then, when we get done with the first prostration, the first sajda, we sit up, right? And when we sit up, we sit up for a short period of time, and this is it's called jalsa. This is between the 2 sujood, right? Some people read a dua, Allahumma gfirli warhamni, or many other duas. You can look them up, whatever you want, which is acceptable, and read that. So you sit up, you keep your back straight, you sit up for a little bit of time, and then you go into the second sajda. And then we also recite again Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. All glory be to my Lord, the Most High. We're consistently trying to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the course of salah, because this is our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the second rak'ah, we will not recite the sana. We will not recite Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. We'll just recite Fatiha, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim, Ghayri al-maghdubi alayhim wa lad-dallin. Ameen. Right? And like we discussed before, depending on what madhab you follow, the shaykh you follow, you'll put your hands accordingly to that. I'm a Hanafi, we put our hands down here. So we keep them in one place. So, you just stand upright, you keep your hands in the place, and you wear something respectable. This doesn't mean, like I said before, this doesn't mean you have to wear a kurta or a thobe or something like that. If you choose to, that's your choice. But it should be respectable, it should be clean, and it should cover your body. Like when we go into sujood, our backside should not be exposed to the second saf, to the second row of people. Right? Our shirt shouldn't be so short and our pants shouldn't be so tight that when we go into sujood or ruku, we're exposing everybody to our body. This is common manners. Like if you go to work or something, you try to make sure that you don't expose your body to people. So it's very similar in the salah. So you'll perform the Fatiha and then you will recite a surah. For example, you can recite Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar fasalli li rabbika wanhar inna shaniyaka huwa al-abtar. Right? Second rak'ah. Now you go into ruku. You do it the same way. Allahu Akbar, you go into ruku. Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim. 3 times minimum. We get up. Sami Allahu liman hamida. Rabbana lakal hamd. Allahumma Rabbana lakal hamd. Whatever you choose. As much as you want to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Then we say Allahu Akbar. We go into sujood. Right? We read Subhana Rabbil A'la, Subhana Rabbil A'la, Subhana Rabbil A'la. Allahu Akbar. You come and sit in jalsa, which is sitting like this. And inshallah later on, I'll record the whole salah of how to do it, but just going over it in the book, we get up from the first sajda, Allahumma gfirli warhamni, or whatever dua you want to read to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you get back into the second prostration, the second sujood, Allahu Akbar, Subhana Rabbil A'la, Subhana Rabbil A'la, Subhana Rabbil A'la. Then, since this is the second rak'ah, right, the second rak'ah of 4, we're going to sit in tashahhud, right? And when we sit in tashahhud, we're going to recite the at-tahiyyat, as we call it. Many DC people, they call it this. And it goes like this. At-tahiyyatu lillahi was-salawatu wat-tayyibatu as-salamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As-salamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi as-salihin. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. When we're sitting in, this phase, we're gonna keep our, we're gonna sit like this, and we're gonna keep our hands over here, and then, according to which madhab we follow, which shaykh we follow, the Hanafis generally, when they read Ashhadu an la ilaha, this is when they put the fingers up. Some brothers, they consistently move it, which is fine. Some brothers, they put it up a little bit later. Some brothers, a little bit earlier. But just, go to your local shaykh and learn from them. Because your local shaykh is your best resource. Because this is who you can follow. This is who you can ask questions to. Just trying to follow somebody online is not feasible. We'll recite that, and we will be done with the second rak'ah. And the second rak'ah, if you're praying 4, like Fard al-Isha, you're going to get up and you're going to continue. And inshallah we'll continue that in the next session next week. Jazakallah khair. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.